What's up, everybody? Always appreciate y'all rocking with me. And since I last spoke to y'all, I've actually been watching. I should pull this up, but but I've been watching my own reaction and cracking up. I have to say, I kind of outdid myself. If you have not seen this incoming Pulitzer reaction that I did, you should watch it. Okay, I had a lot of fun doing it, and this album's trash. You already know it is. It is what it is. Okay, but of course, since then, Drake has filed a lawsuit against UMG with regards to Kendrick Lamar botting, and I guess UMG sort of boosting artificially Kendrick's numbers and all that kind of stuff, and views. Look, listen. I already told you it's Kbot Minaj, right? So this doesn't surprise me. Everything about Kendrick Lamar is artificial. Even his support is artificial. And that's besides the point. And look, as I've said before, if any of Drizzy's team sees this, look, I know the perfect hip hop type of record that you could do to end this nigga. Because all you have to do is really end him in the eyes of the hip hop public. Look, Kendrick Lamar is a Swiftie, so at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily mean that people stop listening to Kendrick. I don't think that that's necessarily how it will go. He doesn't. Kendrick doesn't need the hip hop community to thrive, but his popularity will go down as it becomes obvious that he's actually not a hip hop artist. You know what I'm saying? So you need to take a shot at his credibility because Kendrick leeches off the hip hop community and presents himself as a great rapper when in fact he isn't. And the only people that say he's a great rapper are people that don't listen to hip hop. So you see, that's the disconnect. But in response to that, look, I kind of don't care. I mean, Drake's not suing me. He's not suing, anyone I know. So why do I care if he's suing UMG? I don't. It's hard to say if this is something that would revolutionize or change the way that the music industry does things because the music industry has always really been about payola. Again, of course, talented acts come and go, and there is genuinely great music that catches traction and shitty music that genuinely catches traction and all that stuff. But payola is a way of life in the music business, and there's all kinds of forms of it, and it just is what it is. So now the question is, do I think that Kendrick or in this team are doing anything above and beyond the usual? Yeah, absolutely. I definitely wouldn't be surprised. I think a lot of stuff is about them is artificial, and we live in an era. This is why I think it's so interesting when people talk about streams. Arguably the fakest era ever. At least before, people used to buy CDs. You could actually see someone with CDs in their hand. You know what I mean? People would line up and actually buy stuff. So they were choosing to vote with their dollars. And it was a very obvious vote. Now it's all internet shit. I mean, how many people are on the internet in the world? Maybe 2 billion? How many bots are there? Maybe 5 trillion? you know, like you take the average person that's on the internet, multiply that by, who knows, 1,000. There's probably 1,000 bots. I mean, look, listen, I see a lot of the haters who come into my channel and say this and that. A lot of them are bots. I know what it is. It's just the nature of the game. So my point is, I kind of don't care, but it doesn't shock me that Kendrick is botting, and I'd be curious to see if there is actually a legal precedent that can be set by this, if they are in fact going to, take it to court and actually find something that is quite interesting. Now, in terms of from a hip hop perspective, is it a bad thing? I guess not really. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, Drake isn't. I mean, he's a hip hop artist, but not really. So it's. I kind of, again, I don't care. It'd be nice if Drake puts out a diss record because that kind of keeps it more hip hop. But I can understand where he's coming from because, it's not like Kendrick Lamar battled. I mean, the battle was garbage. Neither of them really dropped any haymakers. But, Kendrick Lamar just essentially called Drake a pedophile, which is a pretty serious accusation to make. It's not really, like someone might say, well, people have called rappers all kinds of things, a crackhead and stuff like that. But the truth is that when you start talking about children in that light, it doesn't really get much more heinous than that. which is what brings me to my next thing, blood libel. I think you guys should be familiar with this. A lot of people don't understand what blood libel really means. But I would take a look at this. It's an anti Semitic. Don't you always talking about the Jews? But you see, the thing with blood libel, right, is an old trope that goes way back to medieval Europe, right, where Christians in particular, or let's just say Europeans, accused Jews of sacrificing children and that stuff, and it was lies made up to essentially kill Jews. Now, I do think it's interesting that Kendrick Lamar, Duckworth, is essentially, putting the child smear on Drake in typical, I would say, anti-Semitic fashion, probably. And of course, his audience bought into it, and they're happy to, right? Look, a lot of the reasons people hate Drake is because he's Jewish. I mean, he's a black man, black Jewish dude from Canada who's running shit. So, there's a lot to hate. And so I just think it's interesting that, when you mention children, I mean, there isn't really anything. You can't spin that in any other way. It's just so heinous that it's really the ultimate. I wouldn't say it's the ultimate libel, really, right? So I can understand that. I think that's, like when when Jay just Nas as somebody who's, nigga, switch up your flow, your shit is garbage. What you trying to kick knowledge fuck out of here? I mean, it's funny and it hit hard, but at the end of the day, Jay is dissing Nas's character, right? And that's a very different thing. But in this particular case, Kendrick is making really an accusation of crime, and really the most heinous crime one can think of. So that's something that I would definitely take a little bit more seriously than normal, but at the same time, it is rap, and frankly, it's Kendrick. It's corny. It's played out. It's an easy launch. Libel against Jews and blacks, actually, I should add, but particularly against Jews, is very easy to launch. It doesn't take a genius to figure that shit out. Speaking of anti-Semitism, I think this is actually kind of interesting. This is an article that I'm just reading right now with Drake seemingly following Timbaland over anti-Semitic insult. So Drake apparently, or I should say Timbaland, posted something like a sort of the stereotype Jew with the big nose thing. It comes from his account. Now, does Timbaland run his social media account? Who knows? Does he run his Twitter account or wherever this was, or Instagram? Who knows, right? But would it surprise me if Timbaland was anti-Semitic? Not really, unfortunately. There's a fair amount of them in this world. But I do think that, again, this is part of the unspoken thing that people don't talk about in hip-hop, and it's really frustrating. Look, listen, Kendrick Lamar himself, and this is why I think, again, I think Kendrick and his team know what they're doing here, is look at the first opening line of Whacked Out Murals. And I remember when I was listening to this, I didn't comment on this, but I thought that this was a really weird line, right? So he says, that's the name, someone whacked out my mural, right? And that goofball delivery. That energy make you niggas move to Europe. And I was like, Europe? That's a weird line. Considering that this is, obviously Kendrick always has Drake's name on his lips, or is either sub or direct in some cases now. And I thought, is this one of those move Jews back to Europe nonsense? Because what I thought was interesting is, of course, I'm looking here at Rap Genius, right? And Rap Genius, okay, this is why I think it's hilarious when people write these genius annotations, right? And how can you miss this? Like, not talk about the fact that this is possibly a remark, a shot at Drake's Jewishness, right? And I'm sure it's not. I'm not reaching, right? I'm sure someone will be like, yo, you're reaching. I'm pretty sure I'm not. So here, this line hints at all the negativity surrounding his him, right? That's Rap genius shit. Black artists, Haven, black artists, James Baldwin, Josephine Baker. Whoever wrote this doesn't listen to or know any of these people. But again, it's just rambling. And then in the context of his feud with Drake, obviously, move to Europe might be alluding to Drake's tendency to avoid direct confrontation or accountability when faced with criticism or losses. What about the fact that Drake is Jewish and it's a known anti-Semitic trope to say that Jews should go back to Europe. You didn't think about that, genius? Oh my God, I can't. I can't with these people. Okay? It's like they're so smart, but they miss the obvious shit. Anyway, so moving on. That's all that. Whatever happens with that happens. But frankly, I would love to see Drake body this clown. Or even if he doesn't, I don't care. Honestly, at this stage, I'm an elder, whatever. Like whatever happens with rap is what happens with rap. I just want to hear good music. I've always said this. If Kendrick Lamar drops a song worth listening to today, I'm going to tell you that it's amazing and I'm going to be a fan of that song. That's a fact, right? I don't have any hate towards any artist. I just like good music. I don't like how Kendrick Lamar and his team and his stands gaslight me, though. And that's why I diss the shit out of him. Or I should say his brand. Because his brand is built on gaslighting. And I'm tired of that shit, frankly. So, that's that. Moving on. Now, J. Cole says he's re-releasing 2014 Forest Hills Drives with unreleased songs for 10th anniversary. This is forced. No one cares. Okay? Let's see. Who cares on Hip Hop DX? Oh, 0 readers have joined the discussion. What a surprise. No one cares. I'm sorry. I can't remember the last time anyone was like, yo, put on that Forest Hills Drive, bro. Again, it's a very small group of people. Not to say that if you're a fan of it, that you're insignificant. I'm not saying that. But, and it's, of course, it's good for J. Cole to do that for his fans. I think that that's fine, right? But the truth is that this was not no classic. And I know how people like to force things or try to assume that, oh, this, because a 10-year mark has passed. I mean, a classic is a classic, whether or not someone releases an anniversary for it or not. Okay? And Forest Hill Drive ain't no damn classic, not even close. Nothing J. Cole makes is remotely classic. Nothing. Literally 0 songs. Moving on. LL Cool J claims he's the most important rapper that ever existed. I mean, what about Melly Mel, though? Like, you know what I'm saying? What I think is interesting, and I didn't watch the video. I'm not going to go into this long-ass conversation. He's interviewing some guy. Let's respectfully, I don't know if this guy knows hip-hop. Let me just see who he is, actually. This is an interview with... Who is this? Dude. Okay. Well, you know what? I noticed French language, and I have to say that people who are foreigners tend to know rap a little bit better than Americans, funny enough. So let's see if...
Wow. When it comes to the jury, this is the guy who introduced all the dime. Going back to Cali, because who did or loves Nas. But it is factually, it's almost like, how do you make a movie about that? Or loves Nas for their music, and they should and have the right to do that. Do I call myself GOAT on the record? Yes, of course. I will say
So this guy's nodding. He's not going to do no pushback. Now, personally, I mean, I love hip-hop conversation. If LL Cool J could say why he thinks he's the GOAT, I mean, he does give a couple of reasons. But, again, I think that if someone that's knowledgeable can push back and say, okay, yeah, but what about the people like Melly Mel, for example, who are the image of what we consider to be the first sort of real prototypical rapper, right? From just the way that he was structuring the verses, the style, the look. One could say that you got his flow from him. So, like, if what makes you the most important? Is it your exactly, like, specifically, because it's not about, you can't say that it's about the fact that you're older than all these people and you predate them, because there are rappers that predate LL Cool J, right? And you can't say that LL Cool J is the biggest rapper ever, because there are rappers that are bigger than LL Cool J since LL Cool J came out, and certainly much more celebrated. I mean, and I respect LL, but obviously we have the Nas's and the J's of the world. So it would have been nice to get some sort of pushback. But I will say this, though. I think LL is definitely underrated. I definitely remember the GOAT. I had that album. I had never heard the term GOAT before, and he did come up with that phrase to me. And since then, I found it kind of just wormed its way into hip-hop conversation. So I think LL is certainly up there with one of the best rappers ever. I mean, you can't talk about hip-hop without eventually mentioning LL. It's just that I don't know if he, number one, though. It's a long shot. Moving on. Um, New Friday singles, new singles from Friday. Um, I listened to some of these so that you don't have to. Let me just put it that way. So this song, Another Part of Me, whatever I heard was trash. Um, Polo G, No Heroes, trash. I'm definitely not listening to anything Benny Butcher and 30th Special, so that's a skip. ESTG, I knew I didn't want to listen to this, but I clicked it anyways just to seem like I'm not hating on the new guys. This was trash. This was trash. I'm not even gonna hold you. This was super trash. Like that's how he was rapping like pretty much the whole time, or at least the first 43 seconds I was able to stomach. Um, don't want to see me rich. This song is trash. Respect to Redman, but this beat is boring. The song is boring, and I'm not sure why. Does Redman not have people in his corner? Like I don't understand this shit, man. I just don't. Anyway, that's garbage. I'd never listened to this. I'm gonna skip this because it's Vinny Idol, and obviously Tory Lanez I skip. Russ, anything Russ I skip. Jeezy I definitely skip. Casey Veggies is an instant skip. Princess Nokia, I was surprised. I haven't seen her name in a while, so I was like, oh shit, Princess Nokia. Let me listen to a little bit of what she has coming out, and it was trash. It didn't even sound like rap. So again, I have no interest in that. I don't like if you're gonna be a singer, you're gonna be a country artist, be a country artist, okay? Like don't start rapping and then when your raps start failing and in general and they never really quite take off. Now all of a sudden you want to start singing on a record with guitars or whatever, or try to do the Erykah Badu thing, and I'm supposed to look at you as like, wow, what an artist. No, you're just not very good. Okay, figure out the thing that you want to do and become very good at that. And Exhibit them joints everywhere I go. This was trash. So yeah, I mean this is how it is. Moving on. Redman wants to make Blackout 3, but Method Man feels differently. Man, I feel differently. I don't want to hear Blackout 3, respectfully. And I owned the first Blackout. I bought it in real time. Great CD, a lot of fun. Nothing really, super crazy, but certainly an Eric Sermon clean vibe, right? It's very different from like the There's a Dark Side into slightly muddy waters where Eric Sermon was still the grungy. Like I would say that Blackout 3 was definitely much more of that sort of cleanish sound that Eric Sermon was adopting and going for in the late 99s 2000, and it was dope. Like Blackout's dope. I almost want to say it's a classic. There's certainly a lot of dope ass songs on there. Obviously, the Rock Wild is a huge one, but there's a lot of shit on there, man, that I really think that people don't talk about enough. In fact, I'm gonna bring this up because why not? Because I used to listen to this CD like crazy back in the day. 1 2 1 2, 1 2 1 2, Mr. Meth Phone Doctor. I mean, there's so many good songs on here, so that y'all can see. If you haven't heard it, I recommend it. Blackout is great. You ain't got no wins in Mikasa. Mikasa, you was great. Four Seasons is great. It's actually one of the best songs on the CD. Again, this is all Eric Sermon. Serial Killer, I'm a killer. Great RZA beat. The Rock Wilder, Tear It Off. Dun, 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 dun. When I was in Saudi, I remember these. I had my classmates who are Arab, and most of them didn't fuck with rap. But Tear It Off actually was one of the first times I remember seeing. I'll never forget, and I know his name, but I'm not gonna say it. But one of my classmates who was really into rock and was like, no, rap sucks and all that shit. And when Tear It Off came out, he was playing the shit out of this song. And it shocked me. I was like, aren't you a rocker? And then I watched the video for Tear It Off and I was like, oh, Red and Meth are kind of going in a different direction a little bit. They're trying to get that Limp Bizkit audience a little bit. Because if you watch the video, you'll know what I mean. But anyways, dope song. 1 2 1 2, 1 2 1 2. Run for Cover is great. Great beat. The Question. Oh, Reggie did that. Redman. That's a dope beat. Redman should. again, this is why it's so disappointing when Redman makes "Don't Want to See Me Rich." He's a producer. Like, he can produce. He's actually got a good ear. I want that ear to come back, Redman, please. Um, that's that shit I don't remember. Check it out. This was cool. And well, alright, yeah, this was fire. I remember that song from back in the day. Anyway, this is a dope CD. So, but with that said, once it's made, let it stay there, please. Okay, I don't necessarily need to see another one. And lastly, Chloe Bailey cops the Kendrick Lamar crush. I was convinced I was going to be with him. Oh, that's cute. This is promo, right? I wouldn't be surprised if it was promo. Let me put it that way. It could be her genuine feelings, but it's just, like all things, the timing is always interesting of these things, right? And we know, to make sure Chloe is loving Kendrick Lamar's new album. Yeah, let's make sure that the audience knows this, right? This is how I kind of feel like someone in PR probably wrote this piece, or at least handed it to somebody to say. But long story short, this album sucks. Okay, and so that's that. That's your recap of the daily Friday news, and it's getting cold out here. I hope y'all are having a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. I'm jealous. I see the mac and cheese. Mac and cheese in particular is something I miss, because here in Canada, the mac and cheese is not very good. Um, but I miss, like, real good mac and cheese. You feel me? So, anyways, I hope y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your families, and peace.